I'm going to give you a tip on how to renew your mind. And how to renew your mind, it's a very biblical thing. And let me start off by saying this. Is it possible to drive yourself crazy? Absolutely it is. Yeah, I've done it plenty of times. But if it's possible to go ahead and drive yourself crazy, then it's also possible to go ahead and drive yourself into peace. And so in Matthew chapter 6, verse 25 through 28, Jesus goes ahead and points out to the individual to stop doing something and start doing something. And so this is what he says. He says in verse 25, he says, take no thought about your life. And so he's talking about your mindset. He's talking about, you have the control, the ability to control your thoughts. And he's consistently saying, you got to take no thought about your life. Verse 27, he goes ahead and says it again. He says, which of you taking thought can add to your life? Verse 28, he says, why do you take thought about clothing? Yeah, in verse 31, he says, take no thought about saying. So he says your thought process, your saying, he says the what's of life, what to eat, what to drink, how to clothe yourself, and then in verse 34, he says, therefore, he says, take no thought for tomorrow. And so he's giving you what not to do. And at the same time, he's also giving you what to do. The what to do is consider the Father. And so he keeps on pointing back to the Father. The Gentiles had the mindset in verse 32 to seek after these things. He says, but you, in verse 33, in that chapter 6, he says, I want you to seek after the kingdom and what the kingdom has, everything that you have now with your relationship with the Father. So I want you to go ahead and start thinking about that. Change your mindset. In other words, there are certain thoughts that should not be a part of you anymore. Don't go there anymore. And don't dwell on that and settle on that. No, don't go in that direction. Go in a different direction. In other words, start thinking about the Father. Think about the provision of your dad and how much he loves you. And if you can go ahead and drive yourself into peace, imagine how you can drive yourself into the love of God. Think about that. God bless you.